Okay, now everything should be working. I'm gonna take off this graphics tablet from my lap and put it to the side. I'm gonna tell you a story about this graphics tablet right now, because I've had some evolved thoughts about the whole graphics tablet review, like whole industry on YouTube, which I don't think that I am a part of. So I don't think by burning some bridges here that I am affecting my channel in any drastic way. Hello, Stefan. Let's get painting. Gonna change into, let's see, the recent process. I think Honeybrush. I used this in the latest video step-by-step tutorial that I just completed and published on my Gumroad. You can see that on the link in the description of this live stream. And I used this brush for most of that painting. And you can also get all of the brushes used in that painting, including the palette, as downloads. It's 2 hours, 23 minutes of me walking through the entire painting process, like showing every button press. It's a bit different than what I usually do. I just wanted to create one of those painting tutorials where you can recreate the entire painting if you want, but I wanted to design the painting landscape so that it's also applicable to many kinds of situations. So I'm able to talk about composition tools and color theory at the same time. So I'm pretty happy with the finished product, and it took so long. I edited that for like 3 weeks. So I'm pretty happy to be done with that. So I wanna copy and paste this map crunch view into the chat. You don't have to view it, but in case anybody is interested, is this the link? Yeah, this is the exact link to the view that I am working with today. This art block or art assignment on the membership is about digital live plein air painting, and the specific take that I have on this whole topic here is that we are learning to use references in a way where we don't copy what we see, but we take what is important to our painting. I think the whole word reference has been, in the last 20 years, turned into something completely different than what it was when I was studying art in art school. And whenever I use the word reference here, like, that's what I mean. I mean the word in its original form, is that we are using a reference and creating art. We are not recreating some pre-existing picture. We are studying the location, and instead of just making another copy of it, which there is no need for, like you can just copy paste that image from the internet. It takes like 2 seconds. What we are doing here is we are creating a new way for everybody to see this, the way that we see the world and what we find interesting and worth mentioning in this environment. So my initial sketches are mostly blocking in main masses, and also thinking about how I can create different kinds of lines that lead to the focal point, and have as many different composition techniques in building that one focal point as possible. And if there are elements in this reference that I am looking at, the reference is on the right, so I will be glancing there all the time. If there are elements that don't support that, I will simply omit them. Or if there are details that don't support what I want to say with this painting, I'm not going to be bothered by that. I'm just going to focus on the elements that feel important to me and work on those. That's it. Where's the reference? That link that I gave in the chat just now, that's the reference that I am using, that location. Like, as always, I don't recommend having the reference on the screen when you are painting on the same screen. I think that really shuts down that part of your brain that is reading and analyzing forms, because then it's all too easy to just go into the copying mode, and when you can just cross-reference like horizontal lines on the picture that you have on the left or right side of your painting, and then just like repeat the exact same thing again, then the design part of your brain, the creative aspect, which you're supposed to be adding to the painting, it shuts down, and you end up just going with what you are given in the reference, and you so easily forget that you're supposed to be designing the whole piece, even if you have reference. And also as a study, it's way more beneficial for your hand-eye coordination if that reference image is in a different scale and literally on a different screen. Everybody has like a phone screen or something that they can put it on, or just go to a library and print it out. I don't know if all libraries everywhere in the world allow you to take prints, but surely there are some options. I'm gonna block in some colors here. If you're using that link, I recommend pressing the play button and finding your own location where you can see something interesting that you would like to paint. I think Map Crunch is great in that it kind of takes some control away from you, and that those pictures are taken with a 360 camera. That technology is like inherently like pretty bad, so you end up with quite a low resolution, weirdly skewed picture of a location, and it just like challenges you more to frame it and compose it in a way that is visually exciting to you, rather than like finding something on Pinterest where a photographer has already done all of the hard part, which is the composition for you. Like in that case, reference can really hinder artistic process if it's not making you make those decisions. Like don't let those decisions be taken away from you, as that's the most important part in learning art. Selina is saying, I'm in the middle of the new step-by-step video and I love it so much. I tried to do my own version. I am excited how it will turn out. Thank you, Selina. I'm super excited to hear that. Again, like that tutorial it took so long to make that I'm super happy to hear that people are seeing it. Because, dear Lord, watching myself paint for the past 3 weeks as I have been like adding all those tips and graphic overlays and zoom-ins for that walkthrough. Even though I like editing, that kind of technical editing where I'm showing every single process and explaining how the painting is made as I'm doing it so that people can follow along, I think that's the hardest kind of editing, because there's so much information that you need to cover. And when I'm painting, for example, like I'm painting here, I'm going so fast that it can be easy to just like do a ton of actions. Like basically like painting for a tutorial is a completely different kind of painting. And then when you are editing footage and you want to highlight all of the actionable steps in the painting process, that is what makes it so difficult, that like you want to keep it understandable at all times. By the way, this palette is definitely not finished. That's why I named it unfinished. Even the sky swatches are not organized properly. I think I'm gonna have a warm light. That I am pretty sure of based on the swatches that I already created. That's the one thing that you need to decide when you start working on a swatch or palette. By the way, speaking of palettes, if you want to download the palette that I used in that walkthrough tutorial that I am talking about, that's also available for free on Gumroad. You can download the master palette, master colors palette collection that I have there. It's completely free. It's €0 or dollars, and when you buy it, you just like input 0 and I want this, and then you can download it for free. That now includes also the palette from the newest tutorial that I also published there. And for the record, like it's like my cheapest tutorial that I have ever done. I just wanna feel like how these clouds are gonna, just like some kind of shape language, because I'm not gonna be using any of that green or gray completely blank sky that I have in the reference location, because it just looks so bland and boring to me that I don't want it. I want to have this sort of like tropical rain might be coming tomorrow or in the evening type of weather, where large, dramatic, tall cumulus clouds that I love so much are building up, almost like explosion clouds. I just never get tired of painting these. If you find something that is always fun to paint, like there's no reason not to do it every single time that you paint. I think we often give ourselves these completely arbitrary limitations that like just because it's so fun, or I have already mastered one element of painting, is that like to push myself to keep learning something new, I can't be doing things that are in my comfort zone. And I think that is the absolute wrong way to think about it. And it's these same people that go on YouTube and watch how do I find my style videos. Like, that's it. You already ignored the call when it was trying to like hit you in the head. and then you pushed yourself to do something completely different. You can learn new things while doing the thing that you like and know how to do already, because every painting is going to be a little bit different, and those differences are going to be where you grow. But there's nothing wrong with like deepening your knowledge into one subject matter when you discover that you have this gift for it. And the gift isn't necessarily like some kind of superhuman skill at painting that one thing super well. The gift can be just having the interest in like finding beauty in that one element. Not everybody has that. And once you find this element about yourself that like you look at that element and you think like, oh, that's interesting. That should be your wake-up call that like, this is my style. I think I'm good at this. Or I'm going to be good at this because I already can feel this pull towards this visual element. And that is going to get you through those 10,000 hours of getting good at that one thing. I kind of like these gradients already. Okay. Mood is slowly creeping in some ways. I'm trying to keep it low contrast still because I'm gonna need that editing room later for really punching up all of those soft transitions. But I think I still need some kind of wispy clouds high above. If you look at the sky, you can often see that the sky is formed in very clear, different layers. That there is an upper level of clouds, and then some clouds are on a completely different level. And you can see this often in the shape of those clouds, that they are not the same shape clouds high above as the ones that are below. And just having that shape contrast can also add a lot of visual interest into any of your scenes. Or there might be a stream, almost like a river of air in the sky that is pulling the clouds into long streaks at one area, but it's not covering the entire sky. It's just like one area where that is happening. Don't you just love my beautiful line art? I was just talking with Brian Sommer on Instagram earlier today, and his line art is always just so confident and beautiful. And I think I've gotten almost to the point where I look at his drawings and I don't feel jealous anymore that I can't draw like that, but I'm just like excited that he can draw like that. And I have other talents, maybe. Like, that's not my role in this world to fill. But he is doing that, and he's doing it brilliantly. Also, he's just the nicest guy ever. He's just ridiculously kind. It's disgusting. Jay is saying, I have been following your videos for a couple of weeks now, and I love how passionate you are. Keep up the amazing work, and you inspired me and many others. Thank you. That's Very kind of you. I was just saying yesterday how I frequently need to apologize in the middle of conversations with normal people that I am sorry that I can't shut up about art, because I noticed that I can go on these like entire rants really quickly and I will just not stop because I am so excited to talk about not just painting and creativity, but also the life of being an artist, and just the relationship with creativity to me feels like just endlessly fascinating. Honestly, there's something about that is just a real magic to me. And for that reason, I am so lucky to have this YouTube channel, because this gives me a perfect excuse to talk about art as much as I want. I don't feel like I ever have to apologize here that I keep talking about art and painting and creativity all the time, because for a lot of people, it's why they are here. It's why they have found this channel. So it's so nice. Like, I don't have to consume energy to be a version of myself that is not real. And that to me feels like such a gift. So if you ever needed a reason to start your own like social media page or YouTube channel or Instagram account to find people like you, like, let that be the reason. Honestly, that's worth it. You're also disgustingly kind. Thank you. I'm feeling really like happy today. I don't know, like, how are you guys feeling? But for me, I think the big part is not just being able to release that tutorial that I was working on, but also, I have to be honest, like, just being able to not work on it anymore. I think I'm so happy to be able to paint again. I love editing. I think that's fun, but like the amount of time that I've just spent doing zoom ins and pointing arrows and pop-up windows and tooltips and all that stuff for that same project, it feels incredibly refreshing to be able to paint again. Because painting also, to me, reinforces this like core identity to me. Like, I am an artist, and if I don't get to paint, I don't feel like myself, and it's building up this like almost like anxiety that I need to pretend to be these all other things in the world, but it feels like those are just supporting the thing that like I can paint again. I love teaching art. I do. And I think it's a real passion of mine. But I wouldn't like to just teach. Like, if I didn't get to paint at all myself, I think I would be very, very miserable. I know that I have probably already seriously shot myself in the foot here by doing at least 3 big-leaved palm trees in this sketch, because this is not my first time in this rodeo. I have been doing palm trees many times before, and they are always an absolute massive time sink. So I will try my best not to spend 1 hour of this live stream texturing these things, so that everybody falls into a complete coma. I am specifically trying to find a stylized way of doing these big leaves in a way where I can get through them quicker. Like sometimes just the speed is the visual problem that I need to solve. I love painting palm trees. I think they are such an essential feature in certain kind of scenes. I mean, it's really important to know how to do them if you want to do the kind of stuff that like my creativity yearns for, these visual vacations in my paintings. Of course I need palm trees. Especially here in Finland we have very dark, non-green, snowy winters. So having a way to escape into my paintings, having a cheap way to escape into my paintings is super important to me. And to create those ideas and to feel those moods, I need to know how to do this. But at the same time, I do not want to be painting one piece for 3 weeks every time when I feel like I want to do a new painting that has palm trees in it. Because that is taking away so much time from other painting ideas that might come. And I guess I'll always be a concept artist in that sense, where I think that the idea to me is always more important than anything else. It's even more important than the execution. When it comes to the execution, I want to talk in a language that is understandable, but I don't want the execution of that idea be the sole thing that people pay attention to, because I think then we lose the conversation when we just look at how well or badly something is done. I think it's important to talk about the subject, not the just basically clothing of that subject. I think there's one leaf that is a little bit too big here. Isolating the layers is a great way to just kind of like fine-tune a shape language in these sort of situations. And that's what I'm trying to do here. Also, I'm using it as a possible way to solve this time sink aspect of these elements. I'm not sure if it's going to work, but what I'm going for here is an impression. Like if I can give the impression of that sort of dense foliage detail without actually spending an entire week on it, then I will have succeeded. I'm going to be working on some layers so that different elements are on the same layer, but they are not visually connecting. That will give me the same editability of the layer without consuming more layers from my layer budget on this file. The resolution is quite high. Has anybody who is watching this already discovered those like main themes that they enjoy painting? I'm now not talking about the things that you would like to paint, like you would like to be good at painting, but the elements that you enjoy painting when you are painting them. Like a certain phase of a painting or element that always feels like that's the fun part. Have any of you like experienced that in your process yet? Alisma is saying, I think mine is hair. I can fully like see why. I think hair is like the clouds of humans. Because you can have almost a realistic depiction of a human being. But even still, you have tons of creative freedom when it comes to how you paint the hair of that human. Like no matter how you have done the facial features, you can still take a lot of creative freedom in how the hair is sculpted into different volumes, how it's textured, and how you light the hair. And I think the same is true for clouds. I mean, like you can do like completely crazy geometric, almost cube-like cloud, as long as it has like certain visual identifiers, like some shapes or colors. People will see that like, okay, these are how clouds are painted in this scene. And I've gotten away with just like completely crazy clouds in some scenes by just leaving some visual identifier, be it shape, value, hue, or just the way that the colors transition in there from how I would paint realistic clouds. And that allows me to just like push the style as much as I can. I think the same kind of goes for water. You can do some pretty crazy water effects. And still have people believe that you are painting water. Oh my god, I painted on the line art layer, didn't I? No. Yes, I did. That's terrible. Okay. Should I lock that? I'm gonna lock it for a while. It's behind some kind of bushes in there. And then there's a fence. I don't feel like painting the fence. I think that would be distracting here. So I might just hide some parts of this other pole into this bush, because it might give this idea that I am more interested in this scene. Is this forest almost like coming at the road, almost intending to swallow it eventually. So I want there to be this sort of like cut grass here in the green patch on the ground, and then the forest gets like progressively more wild and aggressive in shapes. I think that could be kind of a cool take. This is one of those areas where reference is really useful, so I'm just gonna like really zoom in on that telephone pole and just see what the hell is happening up there. Do you ever feel like you're painting like one of the most common things ever, and as an artist you get these moments like, actually, when was the last time that I was outside? How do you do an electric pole again? Like, what do they look like? It's just like googling the most basic elements in life. How to human. Back when I was designing characters and drawing a lot of humans, I also had this thing that like I would work on the face for 40 hours and then one day look at the painting and realize, oh yeah, I forgot ears. Like, ears are a thing that people have, and it happened more than once. Like doing all kinds of like skin pores and stuff and not having ears. These wires are just like completely worked in the reference material, because it has that 360 camera that is doing all kind of weird artifacts there. Hi Mikko, I was doing your Domestika course. I gotta say your technique is the most difficult technique I have tried, lol. Well, I have to say that like part of the onus on that is on Domestika and the way that they film their courses. Like, personally, I don't recommend that, and that's not how I do all of my own digital tutorials on Gumroad. But the way that they do the tutorials is that they film everything in like one day there. So the painting is already done, and then you are basically like faking parts of the painting out of which they edit the videos out of. And of course, you don't get to show the full process at all. Also, that painting, I worked for 40 hours and we shot for like few hours there. So I tried to like have as many notes for the Domestica thing as possible, but obviously it's not gonna be the same thing as like when I make a video tutorial and I am in control of writing and scripting and shooting and editing all the material. For example, for my art course on Gumroad, there's like over 5 hours of video material edited and written where I explain the painting process. And it's just a completely different system. I understand the reasons why they do that. Of course, like they have an amazing efficiency at pumping out this content that they are making. So I have a huge amount of respect for them for that. Honestly, it's not something that I could ever do. But yeah, I just think as an art teacher, personally, I don't like condensing the process into such like short videos. Because what I don't want to do as an art teacher is like give the impression that like art is somehow like ridiculously easy. Art is really hard, and when I'm teaching art, I think it's important to like cover individual topics with the time that they deserve. That's why I'm so terrible at doing, for example, like Instagram reels, because I don't think you can do more than like very superficial like tips and tricks in 15 seconds. A lot of the elements when it comes to art, like they just take time, and I would just feel like fake pretending that like I can give like art lessons in 15 seconds. When the art courses that I run in Helsinki, for example, the students are in them the entire day for weeks, and I have them for the whole week basically. And even then, like the entire structure is like I plan it for weeks every time before I do it, so that that time is used efficiently. So if you compare that to like that kind of process, it's very different. But when I released, for example, this video process, this step-by-step tutorial that I released just now on Gumroad, the 2-hour 23-minute one, like there I show everything in real time. Like there are no cuts, like nothing has been cut from that process. Like I explain every single like tool that I am using and the process that I am making, and you can see in real time the painting go from blank canvas to the finished piece. Like there is no edits or tweaks that I did to that painting after it was done. Like that's like the entire thing is documented and shown in tooltips, like throughout the entire thing. And that's why editing it was so difficult, because it's basically me explaining every single thing that I am doing for the entire duration. It's different. Now instead of like doing that complex shape again, because these are man-made elements, like a copy would be identical, so I am using copy and paste to do that. Not because I am cheap and lazy. That is also sometimes true. Then I just want to be clear that like if I was like tasked with doing thousands of video courses like to produce in my studios every single month, I wouldn't be able to do it better than Domestika. So like surely I'm sure that they have like very fine-tuned process that works for most people. Venabya is saying, my idea of self-care is watching your videos, painting along and learning. You're amazing. You're amazing. That's so sweet. Well, I think it's like factual that my idea of self-care is doing these live streams with you guys. Because as I have probably said in every single of these live streams, and I'm sorry if you feel tired of hearing this, but doing these types of live streams, it does absolutely nothing for the numbers on this YouTube channel. Like, it generates no new subscribers, it doesn't create ad revenue. This is just because I think it's so much fun to paint with you guys and hear your thoughts about art and creativity. Because I'm just like existing in this vacuum. I only have my own thoughts, and every time that you talk about your process and difficulties in dealing with like art learning, the tools or just like creativity or motivation, like all of that stuff is super interesting to me. And I guess like that's why these live streams are my idea of self-care. I'm really here because I want to be here, not because I think that this is my work. Because if this was my work, I would get paid for this, and I don't. So this is purely for fun. I should do a better job of like having those like Gumroad ads for my products in these live streams, but sometimes you just want to paint. I'm gonna like do it later, but when you're the one person doing all of the work, you just can't do everything perfectly, and like that can't be the excuse not to do any art and painting at all. So this is what it is now, and I am gonna try to work on those, but I wanna do these paintings as well. Duru is asking, Mikko, have you ever painted for a video game? That's a funny question. Duru, before this entire YouTube channel even started, I had already worked full-time as a concept artist for video games for 10 years. So yes, I have painted for tons and tons of video games. Also, lots of video games that never got published, too, because that's a big part of game development as well. Me painting for myself is still like a relatively new thing. This is a unique part about what I do. And this is still a new chapter in my life. Even though you might look at this channel and think that this is not a new YouTube channel, but to me still every day it feels very much like I'm giving this YouTube a go. I don't wanna have this road completely vanish into a pointy end, but at the same time there's nothing really covering that either. it's just the idea that I have for the conceptual side of this landscape, where I want to create that sense of jungle swallowing the road. That I think it's important to emphasize that this isn't an endless road, that you can't see into infinite distance. Living Dead Girl is saying, my youngest daughter starts nursery in 2 weeks. Just one morning a week, I can paint for 3 hours. I'm so excited. Yeah, congratulations. It must feel amazing that you get a little bit of your own time. Also, there's nothing wrong with just having a nap too. Like, you also need to take care of yourself so that you are able to take care of others. So if it starts feeling like work, maybe examine like what kind of paintings you can do that are still fun. Like try to keep it light and exciting so that it gives you energy and it doesn't feel like just one more task that you add on top of the existing ones. I think that's important. Is it just me, or does it have that sort of like late 90s anime background color palette look somehow? It's like, to me, it feels a little bit like that. Wrong layer again. Ukri Arts, thank you. The new one is only €9, so it's the cheapest one that I have. Which I think is I think it's important to have those sort of like affordable options as well, because I think art education is like incredibly expensive in other countries than Finland. The students that I have, like the school is free for them. But I know that in other countries than Finland, art education is super expensive. I'm kind of breaking down this foliage and shrubbery that we have here on the right and defining it into more kind of like distinct shapes, that there are individual plants. When you take a photo of a landscape, it doesn't usually arrange in this way. So as an artist, you kind of have to edit reality into kind of like clearly identifiable shapes and blocks. The thing I like about this honey brush that I don't think I have talked about in any tutorial thus far is that it has this sort of subtle texture to it that is not overpowering like this, but when you're painting, eventually you end up leaving bits of it like here and there, and it just adds automatically a lot of hue variety into my paintings, because I don't have to separately go into color picking very nuanced small changes, which are the hardest colors to mix, especially in elements like this distance over here. Like when you have elements that are super far away, like it has way more hue variety, but the contrast is so much lower and the hue contrast is lower. But there's so much visual noise there that those sort of changes are next to impossible to pick in a palette like this, because just a change like this is already too big. Like this is already too saturated and too light. But when you keep color picking the same area as you're painting, if you have this sort of like subtle texture to your brush, and that could be any brush, it doesn't have to be this exact brush, then like every time you color pick, every time you see this thing, like the color changes ever so slightly, and that gives that area that kind of visual interest, and it just like grips the eye and holds the attention a little bit better. Can we do Ghibli live stream where we stylize the reference into a Ghibli movie landscape? I think that's a interesting idea, and to be honest, I was kind of thinking about that as a video tutorial idea recently, but then that whole LinkedIn fiasco happened, and I'm not sure like if people would turn against me for doing something like that. So maybe it would be kind of tone deaf now to do like, here's how you do a Studio Ghibli style a landscape painting. I think I might get cancelled for that. I'm gonna remove one of these lines because I still need to have the side of the road lines as well. Actually, should I do the easy one first and then go into transforming, because that will tarnish the entire material as I am doing this. Okay, I think it's better to have all of those on the same layer. And now on top of this road, is the road in place? I think I still need to have a little bit of this in here. And widen this side. Either go over and properly under this corner, like never leave it at the corner. You don't want your diagonals to be pointing at the corner of your painting. That's a big no-no. The next time that you do that, think that like I would be disappointed in you. Also, your parents would be very, very disappointed. Again, I have to decide where this sunlight is coming from, like from the left. Maybe I have already decided that. But it's different than in the reference. I'm gonna link the reference again, just for those who joined now. Arcus Molder, hi from Argentina. Your artwork is awesome, dude. Thank you, Arcus. And actually, Argentina was the topic of the previous one of these art assignment live streams. The map crunch link randomly took me to this like mountain range in Argentina, and that is what we painted in that one. It's a beautiful location. I am doing this rule for myself when I'm using map crunch, is that like I can refresh the page 5 times into different locations, and you can also go back on map crunch to the previous selections by just pointing at arrows forwards and backwards. and it saves those random locations that it takes you to. But I have given myself this rule that I cannot go into more than 5 different locations, because I want to stop this like endless search for like one specific thing. I want there to be an element of randomness that sometimes I just have to accept what MapCrunch is throwing my way and working with what I've got. And that's the whole point of this thing that we are doing in the membership, is that there needs to be an element of design to your painting, even if you are using reference. So you can't just endlessly say that like, oh, the references weren't too interesting, because that's your job. Like, you are supposed to find and create the painting within that. Like, we are not copying the reference, we are creating something new. And just looking for those visual appeal opportunities. That's super important. I'm gonna duplicate this base to have a little bit more opacity. Maybe also do the same thing, but with overlay gradient to deepen the colors a little bit, to give it just a little bit meatiness. These sort of effects are subtle and something that people don't consciously notice, but when they're not there, the colors just end up looking kind of flat and cheap and low calorie. Should we go to those like scary elements already, and maybe just a few more elements here in the because I don't want to go into the whole palm tree thing if it causes that problem that I was talking about earlier, that you just see me painting palm trees for the rest of this live stream. At some point I'm gonna have to go there. I don't have a clear plan on how I can overcome that amount of work. I just know that it's one of those elements that I want to get better at. And I think that was one of those reasons why I chose this thing specifically. This is an opportunity for me to push myself into a situation where I have to quickly paint elements that are difficult. Because like even after this live stream, when I am doing the final polishing and fixing up the details and color balance and so on, I'm not gonna be using that much more time on it. Like there's not an endless amount of time that I allow myself to use for this. I think here I could go a little bit darker with the shadows. Not black, but I still have plenty of room here. I'm gonna use that range and then just do this subtle gradient. And this is one of those things that is just going to tell the viewer that this area is closer, because I am overall in this area increasing the contrast towards dark colors. Notice that I still left plenty of room there. And it looks very saturated, just because I have been very careful of not going too bright and screamy with these colors thus far. Can we see that damn tree trunk at all? It's kind of spiky. It's spiky, it's somewhat spiky. This is just one of those elements that if I was painting completely from imagination without this reference, I would have no idea what's happening here. It's one of those artists who didn't touch the grass enough times. And forgot what trees look like. I do like those kind of dead, dry strands of leaves. I wonder if I can incorporate some of that into the way that these are patterned. So I'm going to that layer and adding a clipping mask to the big leaves. Where are the damn big leaves? I have no idea what I'm doing. Okay, here. It's fine. I'm not completely spiraling out of control. It looks like there are these areas on the edges of the leaves where it's more likely that those brown areas occur. Same is also happening for yellowness, and it's more saturated. I'm trying to keep it like quick and just moving along. There are also these other foliage parts that are in front of this element, and I'm gonna block them on their own layer as they are overlapping. So I want to make sure that I don't confuse the two. the color that I'm choosing here, the only aspect about the color that matters is that it can be differentiated from the tree itself. And I guess this big tree is going to have the most... Actually, this color is pretty good, but I can't see what I'm doing, so I'm just gonna... When in doubt, use pink. I think this foliage type is something that I already have solved this time issue on, so instead of spending the entire evening here, I can just do a generic portion and then repeat that to the areas where I have edges. So Selina, what happened on LinkedIn is that people asked some like AI image generator system to create Studio Ghibli versions of their own profile photos, and everybody was changing their faces into these Studio Ghibli looking AI slop images, kind of like basically showing their support for like stolen art, which was just like a really bad look in my opinion for many. And yeah, so doing like a Studio Ghibli looking thing after that would be pretty much like it's a pretty flammable topic for now. Obviously it's a different thing when an artist does it with their own skills, but just because it can be like associated with that kind of mass art theft that just happened, maybe now is not the time. Okay, now that I have this whole pink thing, I'm just gonna use that color that I did want to use on this, which is this one. And clearly it's the wrong color because it just sinks in way too much into this environment, so I'm just gonna lighten it up a little bit, find a warmer hue. Add a bit of saturation, and I think we are getting into somewhere where it's starting to look like a completely different element, which was what we wanted all along. How many hours a day do you paint? That depends. Like when I was doing that video tutorial that I was working on, honestly, that was pretty much my full-time job for the duration of those like 3 weeks. Not just the editing, but the design of that and so on. The painting itself, it looks like in that tutorial that I'm painting that whole thing in that 2 hours and 23 minutes because it's a real-time tutorial. But that painting topic and subject and the order in which those elements are painted, I very carefully designed that for a long time because I thought about the educational value of like if I just have, for example, something like this where it takes 2 hours and 23 minutes just to paint the foliage, it doesn't add a lot of value to the person who is there to learn art. So I wanted to cover as many different like topics and painting techniques with the subject and then paint them in an order where it makes sense. So that doesn't come on its own. Like it's not like here where I can just like wing it and adjust it things on the fly. I didn't want any of that, my own confusion, to come in the way of following the tutorial. So that's why I spent all that time planning it. But sometimes I just have painting days. Like, for example, if I have a painting that I'm doing for a client, sometimes it's the whole day that I get up, I drink my coffee, I play my Monster Hunter, and then I paint here from usually around from 8 to 6. This just adds a little bit more hue variety because this element is so close to the camera that it cannot be flat. If we had this tree element so close to us, we would pay attention to what is up there. I'm gonna duplicate that one more time because I want that hue skip to be quite stark. a lot of Scumbling. I did a separate Scumbling live stream some time ago. I think that was fun. It's one of the most meditative things you can do when you're painting. It's not really on autopilot, but it's close to it. It's a great way to kind of practice the idea that details are also huge masses of blocks, and then you're controlling the edges of those masses, and the details themselves can be hidden away and diminished by the closeness in shape or color, or just the way that they are created to have grouping. It's a way to be kinder to your audience and not make them kind of pay attention to your every single brushstroke, because not all of your brushstrokes are going to be as important. You want to be aware of that and direct the attention to those brushstrokes that are important. And when they're not important, the boringness of different detailed areas, like that's just as important as a skill. I think I'm gonna block in some light elements. Here I'm doing my best not to get into the details, just thinking about the block and the effect that I'm trying to create. This is not something that I have figured out. This is the thing that I want to be learning while I'm doing this. Just because I mentioned that uselessness of these live streams for my channel health, it doesn't mean that these are useless for me. I use this as an opportunity to paint without always having an idea of like what am I doing. Because if I just made like edited YouTube videos and like art tutorials, that wouldn't give me the space and time that I need as an artist to also grow. Like I need to fail and do paintings that allow me to try new things and learn new techniques. Otherwise, how am I going to be an art teacher if I'm not learning myself constantly? How would I advise somebody who is finding difficulty in motivation or feeling frustrated that they are not learning some new things if I don't have the courage to put myself into that situation as well? I mean, it would just be really difficult to be a person who can conjure up some like true empathy. And I think, yeah, I don't want to be that kind of person either. So I want to be growing and learning, even though I have my things that I like, but that just motivates me. Like those things that I like to paint, I want to paint them better. I know that the more technical skills I learn on my way as I'm doing these things that I enjoy so much, every single thing that I learn, it's going to open up new doors and new ways to express myself. That's the real reason why you want to be learning art and getting better at it. Not to impress anybody else, but so that you get rewarded with these new ideas and that thing that you are so passionate about and interested in. You're gonna go deeper into that direction in the woods and discover something that you can show for the rest of us. I think this simplification is working pretty well so far. I wouldn't call this super fast method yet, but it's at least a lot quicker than what I have done in the past when it comes to elements like this. If it's progress, I will take it. I'm not gonna complain. Thank you for clarifying. I understand. Then let's not wake some new scandal, Selena is saying. Yeah, I always wanted to be part of a scandal, but like this is not how I want that to happen. Maybe I'm too old for like a sex scandal, but when I was younger, I really like that was my big goal for the future. I've already done all the things that I've like dreamed of doing in life. I've been a concept artist, I've done games and gotten a dog. Like, what else is there? Look at these highlights. I mean, like, that was amazing. Yes. I'm like mentally high-fiving myself here. This is a really difficult subject for me, and I think I'm just crushing this. Sometimes you get lucky. By the way, this is random theme-based music, so don't blame me when the eventual Christmas song comes on. That always happens when you trust the system to deliver based on search results. Considering that it's the biggest palm tree leaf I have here, I think that's pretty good value for time input. Maybe there's not like a instant win button for all elements. I was talking about video games earlier, and the previous art assignment block was video game environment design. There, the top-down view is something that I have tons, like years of experience on. And the reason why you don't see me doing that a lot in my videos, or especially in any of these live streams, is because if there was a speed paintable way of doing it, if there was a fast way to get to those end results, I would have found it already, because I have spent literally 10 years of my life dealing with the time sink of that visual problem. Let's see how we are doing on time thus far. 1 hour 38 minutes. I think that's pretty good progress. I'm gonna fill out this like big hole in the scene and then sprinkle some colors on here, and I think then we're like almost done. The goal is always to get to like the whole visual impact. I will add 2 more palm trees here. The one that is up here, and then there's going to be one around here-ish. I'm gonna recycle this element a bit. Let's flip it horizontally to fool everybody into thinking that I am patient and doing stuff like that. Mekus. Well, Mekus, what is up in here is that I am like wearing way too much clothes for this live stream, to be honest. I should be painting in my underwear, because I can see that the shirt could like end here. I could be wearing a crop top and not be just like sweating my ass off in here in this studio, because it's getting like super hot. Live streams during summer are always like that. It's just feels like a sauna in here, and not in a good way. I like saunas just as much as any other Finn. Are there some kind of beams on the right? Let me see that. I think there is some kind of a beam behind this tree, and I don't quite see it, and I don't think it adds that much to the scene. So I'm just gonna leave it. Let's pretend it's not there. Yeah. I feel confident that that's the right call for this now. trying to find those mystery elements, but they are here. All of these. So what am I missing? These beams should be below them, right? Why are they not? I don't understand. Okay, Mikko, focus. You can do this. I'm trying to go into my lightning mode, super speedy painting. Because these blobs are such abstract shapes, layer management is proving to be a real challenge, because I need to identify which elements are where really quickly, and also keep track of like how am I building the illusion of depth. So for that, I need to know like in what order every plant and tree and bush is in this scene. Maybe to avoid that thing that I was talking about earlier with the LinkedIn scandal, like we could do a video or at least on the membership, like some kind of like a session on getting that like 90s animation background look. Maybe that could be a way to like not touch that flammable subject, but still give people what they want. I don't want to sound like I don't appreciate the video and tutorial ideas that you guys have, because I do. That's literally how I make those decisions on what to spend time on. And when a video does well, like usually after that, I give myself the permission to just paint whatever my creativity assigns me to paint, because I need to do that. Otherwise, I wouldn't want to do any of this stuff if I couldn't sometimes just like have fun and be the artist version of myself. Like I said, I like being an art teacher, but it's just I love enabling people to like create their own things and finding their own like artistic voice a lot. But I also have my own, and I have that kind of urge to create things that my creativity gives me. And that's what really all of this is for. Because I feel so grateful that when these ideas come to me, that it feels wrong to say no to those ideas. I don't know if that makes sense to you. But when you have been living as an artist long enough, you get kind of less selfish and egoistical about your own art. You realize that like you are just there to help creativity get those ideas across, and you are just basically the translator of those ideas, and you can't claim those things as your own. Like you are basically there just to help. I'm basically like a janitor type of hand for my creativity. That also makes making art a lot more fun, because when it doesn't succeed, I'm just like, hey, I'm just working here. It's not my fault if it's not always like a massive success online. That's none of my business. Batong? Is that real name? Anyway, if you're a real person, happy birthday. Everybody else, let me know if I just said something obscene in a language I don't understand. Alisma is saying, Mikko, do you ever feel like some artworks just don't come together, or is there always a way to fix it? Well, if I'm working with oils, there's always a way to fix it, because I can always paint over it. I guess if I'm painting with watercolors, at some point it's just ruined. Even if I work with poster colors where you can paint layers over the previous ones, there's a limit to how much layers that paint can take, and at some point it just cakes into a mess where it's unsalvageable, I think then it's done. It's better to just use what you learned from that previous one, and the way to fix it is to get a new cardboard or canvas or paper or whatever you're painting on, and then do the same idea again. I said this, by the way, in this new tutorial that I released, that sometimes the best way to fix a painting is to do it again. Honestly, you would be surprised by just how much quicker it is to paint the same thing if something happens, if you lose the file or it corrupts or things happen in life, if you break the device somehow. Just doing the same painting again, like, it's amazing just how quickly you will be able to use everything that you learned when you did it the first time, and then it just comes just like that. Honestly, it might seem like incredibly daunting at the time when you have put in all this work into a painting and then something happens and you need to start over. But when you do, if you do, I bet that you have no idea, like, just how quickly that new same painting comes together. Because so much of painting, instead of rendering or just technical execution, it's about design and going through that visual checklist in your mind on how to construct a piece. And when you are painting the same thing again, you have already done the hard part. Like, you have already figured out the design, because the design is the most important part of the painting. Anybody can do rendering. I can teach the techniques of rendering in a weekend to anybody new to painting, like, just like that. Like, that's not the hard part. The hard part is understanding composition and learning composition, and that you cannot teach in a weekend. There are so many tools to it, and there are so many ways to fix a bad composition, and you need to learn those methods to also identify when those elements are not working, and that takes time. A painting is never great because it has great realistic rendering or details. It's only great when it has good design, even if it's not a concept art piece. Some of you might be looking at this and wondering, like, why am I not just using a grass brush to do this entire area? But I am thinking about where the detail needs to be with every single brush stroke. And with a grass brush, you're just repeating the same noisy detail over and over. You're basically telling the viewer, look at this, this, and this, and also this. That's not kind painting. Kind painting is guiding your viewer through the painting and leading them to what is important. And if the grass in your foreground is not the entire point of your piece, then maybe it shouldn't be the most noisy and aggressive part of your entire piece. And if it is the entire point of your painting, do you really want it to be just like copy-pasted stamp of the same thing over and over? Like, what are you saying then, really? I don't think there's a good argument for using a grass brush almost ever. Hello, Fully. Sorry for chewing so close to the microphone. That's terrible. Selina is saying, I don't like summertime so much in my head. I'm already waiting for autumn and winter. Wouldn't mind if a Christmas song comes along. Let's not curse it. It just might happen. This song is giving me Mass Effect vibes. There's some kind of a building in the distance. No, that's a tree. Good. I didn't feel like doing a building anyway. Those distant hills could be a little bit more dramatic, I think. maybe the road could use some noise. Let's do some like noise, like real noise. Adjustments, noise. Does it need color to do noise? Apparently it does. Sorry for the noise that is gonna come, because my boyfriend is coming home from his Paris trip and our dog hasn't seen him for days. Neither have I. I'm gonna blur it a little bit. Do the same for these shadows after an alpha lock. The variety and perspective is there, it's just not as dark anymore. I'm gonna create a subtle gradient for these clouds so that there's constant change in hue and values in the biggest cloud that is covering most of the sky. It's weird that I'm looking at the reference, but it's, as you can see, it's completely different than what I'm doing here. But I am paying attention to the main forms of the landscape that I want to emphasize, and for that reason, like, these clouds are doing all of that work for me. I'm using more of that editing room that I saved up earlier. And now it's usable as highlights after all that tweaking. That's one of those workflows that I have done many times in a slower way, and I have figured out the faster way. And once you kind of unlock that problem, then it's not something that you need to think about when you're painting. It's just, you can always use the same thing. It doesn't matter if you are just repeating those steps every time. You have earned that speed through doing it the slow way and trying to figure out the fast way to get there. Just painting is full of little shortcuts and cheats like that. I think that's part of the fun part. Do I still have time to add some of those sprinkles that I promised earlier? Yes, let's just do them on a new layer so I can polish them later. To wrap all of this up, because I want to see my boyfriend as well. It's weird hearing him in the other room after all this time and not being able to go and see him. I mean, I should have done this live stream earlier. It's my fault. Oh, I found the exact type of pink or purple that I was going for right away. I want it to be like pretty little hue variety, but nothing that is just stealing the attention. I think it bridges that gap between shadows and those greens and creates contrast nicely there. Well, this blue wasn't the right one. It's definitely not the right hue. It's way too green. It's still too green. gonna add more flowers to the areas where sunlight would hit for a longer duration during the day, as these wouldn't grow in areas that are just shadows. Few more green blobs, like in that one area that is really bothering me with this composition. Here. They would just have the same Scumbling treatment as everything else, but their kind of main purpose is just to repeat this round pattern, and eventually it adds more kind of like three-dimensionality to the environment, as that same shape is just getting smaller and smaller in the distance. Same here on the left side. So you only have to teach the viewer in one area on, like, basically you are giving them a tutorial of here's how you're supposed to watch my painting, and then once you have given them the instructions, then you can simplify by omitting details, by making elements more graphic and flattening values. But you have to give them the instructions. That is painting in a kind way for your audience. So this would again be the explanation part. And then the second one is more simplified. And then after that, you have basically explained yourself already, and then you can just have fun. I would love to quit this here, but I do not have the self-restraint in, like, not doing these small few things that are absolutely not necessary. Like, nobody would cry if these aren't there, but I want there to be just like one more layer of clouds, like even lower, to wrap this into what I said earlier about the different levels of clouds, and especially for this atmosphere and creating that sort of like sense of rain clouds slowly building up into these massive towers. These give perspective, and they're so important for the mood that I feel like the painting just wouldn't be that thing that it can be without them. And as always, remember that sky has perspective, just like everything else. Actually, I'm gonna recycle these, like the cheap artist that I am, and then just use them as simple streaks, showing that kind of windy stream of clouds up here. Okay, and that's it. Like now I really have to go, but I think this is, it's there. I'm gonna just copy canvas, paste it, and do curves function, ranking up the reds, ranking down the blues, making sure that the gamma is fixed, setting this in screen blend mode, almost blowing up my highlights. This is a little bit of that kind of like foggy, misty, moist atmosphere. I love the word moist, mostly because so many people hate it. I'm sorry. And we're done. It's 2 hours, 20 minutes. Okay. I think that's pretty efficient. Also, I'm gonna paste it in the chat like one more time. So this is the location. That was the reference for this. And I'm going to be seeing you guys in the next plein air session in this. I don't know if that's gonna be on the membership side or here in the public live streams, but I will be doing both and then just like mixing them depending on how much I have time for. Okay, thank you, Christine. Thank you, Meditating with Love, and everybody who joined this stream. It was so lovely painting with you guys.